Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Alta from the East. Welcome everybody to 2021. Happy New Year to all of you. A Gregorian New Happy Year. As you know that in the Hebrew calendar, the lunar calendar, as we want to make it clear, the New Year started, back a couple of months ago. And as for our solar calendar, and we do have a solar calendar, which is an actual Torah calendar. It's also known popularly as the Enoch calendar. And that calendar, the new year doesn't begin till March 21 this year. So really, technically, depends which system we are in. We're in several systems. We're in the Gregorian system, the new year just started. We're in the Hebrew system, the lunar year started. And we're also in the Torah system, where the new year has yet to start. We're kind of coming to the end of that. And at the end of that, as you know, there is that barley, issue when the barley is Aviv. And then the Torah tells us that this is the beginning of your months. So, rabbinically speaking, the rabbis, they decided that, the year of kings, the year of trees, the year for commerce, is going to be what they call Rosh Hashanah, which they today call around about September, October time period. And yet we know that the real Rosh Hashanah is actually March, April time period, which we call the month of Aviv, or when the barley is, ripened or close to ripening. So that is a little confusion between the different people, different groups. And some groups will probably do their new year as a lunar cycle. Mostly, as you know, they do the lunar cycle. Those that call themselves Torah-oriented groups. I, normally follow that to some extent, but I don't call that a biblical new year. A biblical new year, definitive Torah standard is not Rosh Hashanah in September. Rosh Hashanah, by biblical standards, is always going to be March, April. Now, the interesting thing is this, that there is a nation on this earth, still today, as you all know, which nation, I'll tell you in a second, is the Chinese people. The Chinese people begin their new year in February. During the month of February, they begin their new year, again based on their calendar. And their calendar probably, I'd say, closely resembles our calendar, closely. And then you are going to find some of our people who migrated out to China, and today they look like, Chinese, but they may be from the tribe of Judah, they may be from the tribe of Ephraim, but they are our people. So, same with the Koreans. Even the Koreans, they carry the tribe of Judah over there. So, don't confuse the Chinese and the Koreans with some of the misguided youth in America who think that they are Moabites or Ammonites. It's totally ridiculous, theories that you hear over there in America, because people have lack of information and lack of knowledge, and so they make anybody anything. And so that basically is that. Having said that, this is equally very, very important new year for us. Coming back to the Gregorian calendar where we are living, absolutely Rabbi Kefa, because Rabbi Kefa is, has a Chinese wife, a Chinese Aisha. He has a Chinese son, a Chinese daughter. Of course, the son, if you looked at Nakshan, I don't know, it'd be very hard to pinpoint that he's Kefa's son, because he probably looks, very much Chinese. And so he looks Chinese, is a very, very handsome boy. And you'll never be able to match all his features with Rabbi Kefa, because he's going to carry some features from Rabbi Kefa and some features from his mother. Probably, I would say, he's going to have, probably not thick locks, but he'll probably have some kind of curly hair. And but this is how it is. This is how we are mixed. We are mixed with the nations, and it's proof around you that some of my students have married into Chinese. I believe Shane is another one of my students who married into a Chinese wife, and he also has Chinese wife, and probably when he gets his children, they're also going to be mixed. Yet, they'll still be from the tribe that he is from, and like Rabbi Kefa, his son will be from the tribe of Judah. So, really, this is why. And as for color, I mean, his color is white. He looks like a, white color. So it's not, technically a brown color or dark brown color kid. So this is the difficulty that you're going to have, is that when you're going to try to place everybody with a particular color, Israel is many colors today, and it's all over the world. This phenomena is all over the world, and so we have to understand that and be accepting of that as well, that also in the ancient past, it was allowed for nations to convert, to become part of the tribes of Israel. And that did happen with Egyptians. That happened later with other people who mixed in with us. And Gentiles mixed in with us later down the road, not just at Egypt, but other times too. In fact, a lot of the stories that you read in the New Testament today, where you see the Pharisees, where you see the Sadducees, where you see Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, arguing with different groups, you do see a mix there as well. Because what a lot of people don't know is some of these people that called themselves Pharisees, they were actually from the clans of Esau. They were not true Hebrews. They converted, and their conversion was done by force. So it was John who was the king at one time. He was the king in Israel, and he forcefully converted those people that were known as the Edomites. Edom. Edom are the sons of Esau. So these people converted, and they are your Pharisees that you read about in your New Testament. If you pick it up, you read all these things that the Pharisees are trying to do against Jesus of Nazareth, Yeshua. They're trying to trap him. They're trying to discredit him. And you will find that their lineages connect back to the Edomites. They are converts. And I guess I don't really have too much to say on it, but all I can say is forceful conversions, they are not a good idea. Because we see that in the pages of New Testament, that those forceful conversions in which these people, funny enough, it says that you are the sons of Satan. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. You are the sons of Satan, and Satan is your father. That's what the New Testament pages say. Satan is your father. It doesn't say Hashem is your father or Yahweh is your father. It doesn't say that. But again, you got to understand where Jesus is coming from. So some people might just see that as scathing. Some people might see that as discrimination. Some people might see that as, Jesus was angry, he said it. But I actually was making a point in time, which was 2,000 years ago. And I don't think we need to, overly spend time on it, trying to understand that, because that's not where we are. Where we are today is that today, in 2021, we are looking forward to an abundant year. We're looking forward to a year of prosperity, and we're looking forward to a year of reaping blessings and rewards and benefits and a beautiful family life. See, this is where we want to be. We want to be in a beautiful family life. We're amongst the humanity, we're amongst the people, like everybody else, we're in the group. Many people are dealing with COVID-19, coronavirus, and as you know that America today has a lot of cases of coronavirus. I'm pretty sure that it's probably number 2 or not far from the top ranking where America is today, number of deaths and number of cases. We've topped several million already and still counting. And I think that it's age of the vaccines. There are vaccines that are being pushed out by the governments in England, in America, in some other countries. And here you have the Pfizer vaccine, and you have the Moderna vaccine. I don't know if anybody in this group has had the vaccine yet, but I can tell you this much, that people like me who travel between England and the East and back and forth, I will definitely have to take the vaccine at some point, because they will probably force people who travel to take the vaccine. I don't think we'll be given a choice as to, well, it's okay if you do and it's okay you don't. Because some airlines will make it very hard to travel unless you have the vaccine. So, the writing is on the wall. There's lots of different stories out there about the vaccines, lots of theories. I'm not sure, which theory to believe. There is Rabbi Kefa, talk of a COVID visa, which means that whatever vaccines you've received, they will be registered on your little COVID passport, and so they're going to try to restrict people from traveling the world based on whether you have the vaccine or not. Now, if you are a person who's never left Louisiana, I think like Rabbi Kefa's brother, maybe he's never left Louisiana, then he'd probably be safe, because he don't need to worry about a vaccine. Because, he don't have to worry about traveling from one state to the other or flying or anything. And if he's never done that, then yep, he's safe. Nobody's. So if you're one of those people who don't travel, who stay within your state, then of course, you're technically no threat to anybody else, and you're okay. You're good to go. But having said that, I think that for me, I have to travel between countries, and it's never going to change. It's part and parcel of my history, and part and parcel of my forefathers' history. Like Abraham, he was a sojourner. He didn't stay at one place, and neither can I. That is just the writing on the wall. I just have to travel. It just means that I can't be in one country the remainder of my life. Sometimes I have to go one place and maybe another place, visit relatives or whatever. So that's that. But that means we continue to teach Torah, and we continue to teach it the correct way, because Torah is not about counting your sins. Well, yes, you can count your sins. You can say that I have XYZ sin, and to me, that sin simply means you did not hit the mark. It doesn't make you a wild person. It doesn't make you an evil person just because, you didn't get that job, just because you didn't get that property you wanted, just because you didn't make that car you desired. It doesn't make you an evil person. But in the eyes of, Christianity and other religions that we see around ourselves, well, you're either a sinner or you're, or either you're not. You're either going to go to hell or you're going to some fancy heaven, that they are making up for you. They're making up this nice little heaven for you where you will die and you can look forward to it and you can suffer the rest of your life hoping for this nice little garden, with nice flowers and nice plants and nice fruit and nice wine, and then you can have all of that. Well, the core religionists can keep that heaven for themselves. They can keep that version of heaven for themselves, and I'll take the heaven over here where I have everything, where I'm blessed, where I have a beautiful family, beautiful life, and I will have it right now. I don't need to wait till I die, wither away, hoping for a stupid little heaven that they created. And I don't need to, neither did my forefathers, by the way. My forefathers never believed in this kind of heaven either. And this is where we are today. And as I can tell you, I can testify to you that a lot of my students who listen to me across the world, and they don't come to Pal Talk. Don't count the numbers in Pal Talk. I have thousands of students all over the world. And they write to me sometimes, and they tell me their experiences, and they tell me how they're doing, and some of those students are doing great. And they will continue to do great, because as long as they follow instructions, they will continue to be blessed, and they'll continue to be benefited. I can tell you that one of my students was telling me today that there is a particular lady in their family that will be inheriting a nice car. It's on the horizon. And yeah, it's great, I was very happy for her that this manifestation is coming true for that person. And there are other people, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them because I'm at a distance. I can't make regular phone calls like I do in America. I'd have to go on WhatsApp or something and then talk to them, and I have a good net system. And I'm told, there are many testimonies of many of my students who are doing great. They're doing excellent. They're very happy. They're getting their life sorted out. They're getting their jobs they seek. They're getting the money they desire. They're buying houses. They're buying cars. But everybody else is hiding from COVID-19. Well, their life is beautiful life because they've decided to follow Torah and not religion. That's the difference. It's a total different scenario. You can follow Torah or you can follow religion. If you follow religion, you can have some nice fellowships, you can have some nice cupcakes and tea and coffee and sandwiches, and then you can be back at the same spot where you started last week. It might be 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Or you can be in Torah and you can talk about the manifestation that you produced, the nice car that you just got, and the beautiful wife that you have, and the beautiful children that God has blessed you with. You see, this is the difference. And I'm not talking about rabbinic Torah. Well, rabbinic Torah is as much flawed as is religion, because that's religion as well. That is religion. So you can have rabbinic Torah religion, or you can have Christianity religion. Well, if you take Christianity, and there are many denominations, and you can choose your pick out of all those denominations. And if you have the Torah, then the Torah comes with no frills. It's do or die. You do it and you get it. That's it. There's no in-betweens. And there's no religion, and there's none of this, well, I've got to do it this way, and I've got to attend these lessons, and I've got to say these prayers 10 times, 100 times a day, and then I will be okay. That's Rabbinic Judaism, by the way. 100 prayers a day. Yep, 100 prayers a day. Rabbinic Judaism. You can just open up the Siddur and you'll see there's at least 100 prayers a day that they have to say every day. Now, of course, I would still tell you to bless your food. I will still tell you to bless your water, because that is all a good thing. But it is not part of religion. It is part of what you give to your body. It is part of your blessings. And so you should, and so you must. This is why it's important to do that. Now, during this time, or maybe a few days earlier from today, a lot of people, what they do, they write goals. They write year-end resolutions. They say, well, 2021, my next year's resolutions are, I'm going to lose weight. Yeah, 10 pounds down. I'm going to, do XYZ. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They have a whole list of resolutions. And you might have heard of that on TV, where they talk about write your resolutions for the next year so that you may do them. Some people will, I know I've heard this so many times. Some people say, oh, my next year resolution, I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop drinking. So all sorts of resolutions. But let me tell you one thing. All these resolutions will be utter failure. None of them will work. Whoever will start them, even though those that want to lose weight, they'll start them, and 1 week they're all excited, 2nd week they're excited, and 3rd week it starts waning, and 4th week is completely waxed. You're back to 2020 model again. You're getting nowhere. All your resolutions are now dead in the track. So those resolutions don't work. And so be careful, because a lot of people get into that trap. But as I was reading the Torah for our study today, one thing that was apparent in parsha Veyech, in the book of Genesis, chapters 47, verses 28, it said, and Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, 17 years. So the length of Yaakov's life was 147 years. Now, let me tell you something of interest. And it then goes on to say about when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "Now, if I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim, Egypt." Okay. Why does Torah at one point in Genesis 47:28, it calls him Jacob, and the very next line it calls him Israel? It says when time came for Israel to die. So why the switch? Why many places is called Jacob, and why some places is called Israel? See, that was a question that I had many years ago. I asked this question when I was reading the Torah, reading the books of Moses and some other books of the prophets. It's like, why does God sometimes call him Jacob and why does sometimes he call him Israel? Well, I thought about it, and the answer wasn't so obvious at that time, and it is so obvious now. It wasn't so obvious then. It's like saying this. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt. Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. Well, what I found was this. Whenever it addresses him as Jacob, it addresses his human character and his human flaws. See, people don't like that word flaws because they don't like to think that Jacob was ever flawed. You see, if you said to somebody that Jacob is a prophet or was a prophet and Jacob was flawed, many people will get, they might be, upset about that. They might feel hurt about that. And I know that a lot of people don't call him a prophet, but if you said that he had flaws, a lot of people will get angry at that. But the reality is this, that he did have flaws. Just like we do have flaws as well. So, this is why the Torah, it doesn't hide that fact. It doesn't hide it that he had flaws. It makes it very clear that he had flaws. And then it moves on and it calls him Israel. Because when it calls him Israel, then it tells you that he had no flaws. He was now spiritual. He was now powerful. So when the Torah addresses him as Israel, and it says when the time came for Israel to die, and it then says that he must bestow something on others, and it then talks about a blessing, which means what? Which means that at this time he's become very powerful in God's eyes. He's very spiritual. He has no flaws. He's perfect. And now he has the power to put his hand on somebody and say, "Hey, I'm blessing you." And no one can take that blessing away. That's how powerful he was at that time. So what I found is every time it says Jacob, it's discussing Jacob's weaknesses, Jacob's flaws, and Jacob's wrong dealings, and Jacob's wrong thinking, and wrong, attestations, affirmations even wording and other things, because words have power. And so it's very clear to me, at least when I read these pages, that this is the way he's been addressed. And, this is how it goes back and forth. It switches back and forth between, this blessing. And to top it off, this is the icing on the cake. And nobody in the church is going to teach you this today. That I'm going to show you something. It says in verse 16, the malach, meaning the angel, who has redeemed me. Well, guess what? There is an angel who can redeem you. Okay? And so here, a lot of Christians have problems. Why? Because to them, this angel, my goodness, they'll say, how can an angel redeem you? So, this angel of the Lord, angel of Yahweh, see, a lot of Christians have problem with this. So, they say, well, Who is this angel? Well, some Christians will then say, well, the only angel that can, the only person that can redeem is Jesus, so this angel must be Jesus. So they take the view that this angel must be Jesus. That's one view, one opinion. Then there's other opinions. Judaism has its own opinions. And it says here, it says, the angel who has redeemed me, the malach who has redeemed me. What does redeemed me mean here? You see, here in Genesis 48:16, and I think it might be at this point important for me, maybe just to look at the Hebrew that is used here in Genesis 48:16 is, can an angel redeem you? And if so, well, what is it actually telling us in 48:16? And the word that is using over there, that it says that this angel that redeemed me, is a very interesting word. It says, Ha-malach ha-goel. Ha-malach ha-goel, the angel who redeemed me. It calls that angel ha-goel. Goel basically is not the type of redemption that you get like, the Yeshua, the rescue. Yeshua basically, or Yeshua is basically the word for rescue. It's not that type of rescue. Ha-goel is even more powerful than Yeshua rescue. Why is Ha-goel more powerful? Because unfortunately religion has not taught us that what Ha-goel really means. Because all they teach you, absolutely, Eddie. His family had major drama with Joseph and Joseph's family. So Ha-goel, let me tell you what Ha-goel is. Because you're going to forget about the other type of redemption after this. Look, if I told you today that the President of the U.S. guarantees that your family, for the next generation, 40 years maybe, that they're going to get a check. President writes you he writes you a presidential order, and he says, let's say your name is Sam. Says, you, Mr. Sam, I'm sending your family, your wife, a check for the next 40 years for $1,000 every week. And I'm going to write it into, I'm going to write this presidential order. It's written, you're going to get it for 40 years, and no one can change it. This is, firmed in ink. Is that powerful or is that not powerful? If your family is going to get $4,000 every month for the remainder of their life, well, let's say you have a wife. Let's say you're Mr. Sam working for the president, and the president says, Sam, I'm really happy with your work. I'm going to write you a check every month of $4,000 that goes to your wife, whether you're alive or whether you're dead. Your family is going to get $4,000 for the next 40 or 50 years. That is powerful. Well, what did the president become? The president became Ha-goel. He became your redeemer. That is the kind of redemption that you want in this world. You don't want this airy-fairy redemption. Oh, you'll die and you'll go to heaven and you'll see rivers of, milk. And you'll see these beautiful trees with big fruits, and you'll be eating grapes for the rest of your life. You're going to get fed up of eating grapes. You're going to say, what the heck? I'm eating grapes every day. I need a change. I want fish. I want meat. Exactly as the Israelites said in the desert. When the Israelites were brought to the desert, and they said to God, we are tired of eating manna. We want our other items. Did they not say that? Think about it for a second. See, that is Ha-goel. Ha-goel is a type of redemption you want in your life. Guaranteed. This is not like, oh, maybe not. Maybe you commit the right, you do the right works, and I'll give you something at the end. No. Ha-goel is very, very powerful. When God is on your side, and He becomes your Ha-goel, or if one of His angels becomes your Ha-goel, My goodness, you're laughing all the way to the bank. You'll never look back and worry about your family. You'll never worry about what will happen to my wife if I die tomorrow. What will happen to my children if I die tomorrow. You couldn't care less after that. You're like, my goodness, I'm free. My family has, security for the rest of their life. That's what we're talking about. That's Hagoel. But what do they teach you in churches? Oh, come to church every week and do your little dance and do your few hymns and, let's sing a song together and Jesus died for you and Jesus' blood covers you and blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah. See, that's the secondary redemption they're giving you. They're giving you a life of misery. So you can be miserable the rest of your life. You can get nowhere in your life. They give you a hope that you might go to heaven, but tomorrow you go outside and you do something that is not according to their agenda, and then they're going to say to you, oh, you filthy sinner, you are a sinner, you're going to go to, hell now. Well, there goes your redemption. There goes your Yeshua. Yeshua is dead now for you altogether. It was only there for 2 weeks. There was no presidential pardon. There was no presidential check. And there was no guarantee, that it will be forever. And that's what religion wrestles with every day. Religion is presented to you in different modes and different models. And, some of you, and I'm not saying it in a mean way, some of you have grown old with religion. I met people who went to church 50 years and their life did not change after 50 years. And I went to those people and I said, you know what? You're wasting your time. This religion is not going to change your life. I will tell you what will change your life. If you follow what I tell you, it will change your life. And they were like, I went 50 years for this religion. I was a Catholic for 50 years. I was a Protestant for 50 years. Are you going to teach me how to change? I said, absolutely. I'm going to change it like this. A second. You don't even need to go to church every day to change your religion, to change your future, to change your security. That God will become your Hagoel. He will become your guarantor. You know what Hagoel is? A guarantor. He will be your guarantor. That you will have everything you want in life. Now that is something you want to listen to. And that is something you want to work for. And that is something that will deliver you the goods. It will deliver you the goods because you want the goods. Why? Because we all have families. And we all desire to maintain our families. We want to see happy sons and daughters. If you have a spouse, you want to see a happy spouse. If you have a home, the last thing you want is your home being possessed from you and you thrown out of that home. You know how many Americans today, and I'm only talking about America, how many Americans today face eviction? They are fearing, I think it was January 2, today's date, or maybe the date might be this week coming, there is a date that the moratorium on evictions will be removed. And a lot of people haven't paid their rent. And they will be evicted from their homes. Because they were not able to pay their rent. Probably not, a fault of their own. Probably because of COVID-19, because they lost their jobs. They couldn't pay their rent. And so the landlords, they have a right to evict them. Because, it's their property and they want rent. And they can't maintain their properties if they don't receive rent. So, sadly, this is going to happen. And so, my point is that you don't want to be in that queue of people who is being evicted. You don't want to be there. And I can tell you this much, that none of my students today, Baruch Hashem Yahweh for that, none of them is facing eviction. In fact, most of my students are looking at a beautiful 2021. They had a beautiful 2020, beautiful finish, and they're looking to a great start in 2021. Why? Why? Because I don't teach religion. I teach Torah, and I teach you Torah that gives you unmerited favor. If you follow through with it, you get unmerited favor in the Torah. I see, my mailbox was being hammered by, the so-called gurus, buy this course and buy that course and do this investment course and do this and, so on and so forth, and manifest this and manifest that, and, pay $1,000, pay $1,200 for the year, pay $2,000 for the year, and we'll teach you this. You're going to get your mailboxes full with different advertisements, and they pop up on YouTube as well. When you go to watch a YouTube video of some sort, they turn up and they start advertising, better your life and do this and do that. And, there's so many gurus out there. It's just countless gurus. And, you can't seem to get rid of them. There's so many. So my point is this, that where do you want to be? So this is why I said initially, writing goals is a total waste of time. Because if you're only going to write goals with what they call New Year resolutions, then those New Year resolutions will never come to pass, because, 2 or 3 weeks into them, you're going to get fed up with them and you say, okay, can't do them, can't be bothered. And that'll be the end of that. But here is the important thing. This particular malach who becomes the Hagoel, who becomes the guarantor for Jacob, and Jacob says this. Jacob says, he says that I had a malach, I had an angel who redeemed me, who was my Hagoel, who was my guarantor. And he says, from all evil bless the lads. Let my name be named upon them, and the name of my Ahvoth, Abraham and Yitzhak, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. This is the secret. The secret to prayer is not about praying in Jesus' name or in, John the Baptist's name or in Joseph Smith's name. The secret is this, that Jacob tells us here. Jacob, Israel, tells you that let my name be named upon them. In other words, when you bless yourself, when you bless your children, put my name and the name of my forefathers upon them, it is very powerful. So you say, in the name of Abraham, in the name of Isaac, in the name of Jacob, may you be blessed forever and ever. When you say that to your children, and you should be saying that to your children every Sabbath, you're blessing them with a tremendous blessing. Yes, Eddie, the meaning of malach in the ancient times is a lot different from today. Of course, words change, meanings change, meanings are increased, more meanings are added than what they were originally. So of course there's always that. So also, one of my students asked me a question today, and it was regarding his son, and he said that could the Hebrew sounds heal? Could I use the Hebrew sounds for healing for my son? He had some kind of a rash. And I said yes. The answer is yes. The Hebrew sounds can also heal. They're not just for making miracles. Miracles are also part of healing as well. But I said yes, the Hebrew sounds have healing in them as well. Healing, redemption, blessings. All of that is part parcel of the Hebrew sounds. So my point, the first thing we learn from this parsha is that you must use the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in your prayer. In your prayer, when you pray for your children, you pray for your mother, you pray for your sister, you pray for whoever you love. Always preface with this. And I will teach you something today. It is 2021. And in 2021, I'm going to teach you something that is very powerful, and probably many people don't even know what it means, but I will give you a little meaning of that as well. When God came to Abraham, He made a covenant with Abraham. And He said to Abraham, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make you great. Now, I want each one of you who believes in Abraham, who thinks he is following Abraham's faith, his belief system, I want to ask you, you need to ask that question to yourself. Look in the mirror and ask yourself this question, are you great? And if you're not great, then why not? Because that's a promise as given to Abraham. And you and I both know God does not lie. God does what God says. So, if there is an area in your life where you're not feeling great, then the problem is not that God's word is wrong, or that Abraham wasn't great, or that Abraham's sons and daughters were not great. The problem might be how you live your life, what you do with your life every day. You know, with most people, because a lot of the time what happens is, we wake up in the morning, we put the TV on, and there's that morning show over there, and they're talking pretty much crap every day on the TV, and you take that crap in. And that crap that comes into you is what you become. So the first thing you need to do is remove that crap. Remove that TV show that teaches you that crap. So I'm not saying to throw your TV out, but maybe that you're listening to the wrong people. Again we come back to the point, who do you listen to? So if I tell you, if you're not great, then this first thing you need to do. I told this to a lawyer. I met a lawyer here in this country. And I told this lawyer, and the struggling lawyer, he was a struggling lawyer, and I said to the struggling lawyer, I said, let me teach you how to be great. I said, why don't you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and tell yourself that you're great. And you will be great. And the lawyer said to me, what is this, some kind of magic? So I said, it's not magic, it's fact. It's actually fact. If you do that, you will change your life. I said, what is the problem? What is the problem with your life? Maybe you're not getting enough work. Maybe you're not getting the quality of work you like. I said, it's because what you think of yourself. So you need to change your thinking. You need to change. What does that mean? I said, it doesn't mean change the outside. I said, because all you're trying to do is force a change on the outside. And you're forcing a change on the outside will not change things. It will become more harder, more difficult, and eventually you'll give up. So I said, what will change it? I said, change the inside, and the outside will change. What did Jesus say? Do you remember Jesus' words? There was a particular time that he was at a point, he was having some kind of an argument about clean and unclean. And what did Jesus say? He said something very, very interesting. And I'm going to, let me find that particular phrase. I think it's beautiful. That's just fantastic what he said. In Matthew chapter 23, verse 26, he said, this is what he said. And I think we need to read this bit at least. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside may become clean as well. You know what that actually means? It means that change the inside. It's the inside that you need to change, not the outside. Don't stop, polishing the outside of the cup. Imagine the cup being a human being, and you're only cleaning the outside. You're combing your hair, you're shaving your beard, you're trimming your beard maybe, and you're, putting nice clothes on, but inside is still dirty. Outside you're looking clean, nice clean clothes, nice pair of pants, nice shirt, nice tie, nice jacket, but inside your thoughts are still the old thoughts of what? The old thoughts of defeat. Can't get there. This is not for me. Oh, maybe I should have been born with a golden spoon in my mouth, but I wasn't. See, those are the thoughts that many people carry. So, change the inside. This is what I told the lawyer. I said, change the inside. When you change the inside, the outside will shine automatically. When you stand in front of your mirror every day and you tell yourself, I am great and all is well, then everything will be great and all will be well, because that's what you spoke into the atmosphere, into the air, into space, and that voice will remain in the space. It won't disappear. It's there in the space. And if you continue to tell yourself that, and you might say, oh, isn't that fake it and make it? No, it's not fake it and make it. It's actually true. Because God gave you a promise. God gave your ancestor a promise. Our ancestor was given a promise. You will be a great nation. Well, then why aren't you a great nation? Well, probably because you did not quite read the passage correctly, maybe you didn't apply it correctly, and so therefore you're not great because you didn't apply it. So now you need to apply it. And when you apply it, then you will be. In fact, you are. It's not like you will be in 2 years' time. In fact, you are great. But you just didn't know it. Because you didn't tell yourself that. And when you don't tell yourself that, then you're not. So from today, 2021, when you wake up in the morning and you stand in front of that mirror, and it's cold over here right now, pretty cold over here. When you go outside at this time of night, it's all foggy as well. And you know what you do when you get up in the morning and you see your mirror is all clouded up maybe because of the steam and the mist. And you clear that steam and you tell yourself, I am great and all is well. And you tell yourself that every day. And you're going to start seeing a change. That change will come externally to you. But it will start with an internal, with a phrase. And it's a very simple phrase. Simple phrase. But it will activate the promise that God gave Abraham in your life. Because now you believe it. See, before you just went to church and you just spent your, 60 minutes over there, heard the pastor speak for 15 minutes, did about 15 minutes of hymns, 30 minutes of chit-chat, but you came out and you're the same old. Nothing changed. But now when you start doing this, and when next you read the book of Genesis, you come to chapter 12 and chapter 15, and you read about Abraham's conversation with God, you're going to say, that promise is for me. And I take that promise upon myself. So it will not be that promise is for somebody else who lived, 4,000 years ago or something. It won't be like that. It'll be a totally different scenario. So this is what you need to see. Because this is exactly what God did with Abraham. And God told Abraham many things. And I'm only giving you a brief synopsis of what God gave Abraham. A brief synopsis. But He gave Abraham a lot more. A lot more than that. And even God said to Abraham that I will bless those who come to bless you. And I will curse him who despises you and sees you as worthless. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed or engrafted. In you all the families of the earth will be blessed. And He told him that Sarah, your wife, is going to give you an offspring. And through him I will work my magic, my covenants. I will run through him. So, very important. If I can teach you anything, and if you just stick to this, you will start changing your life automatically. And one other thing I will advise you at this point is, which I was having a quick chat with somebody earlier, and I told them, I said, you and your relationship with money is a covenant of marriage. You got to treat it as a covenant of marriage. How many of you today treat money as a covenant of marriage? I can guarantee you none of you didn't even do that. None of you even knew about it. You all must treat money as a covenant of marriage. When you change money into not just paper notes, but into relationship of marriage, that's why I taught you the mirror technique. That's why I taught you to smell the money. Why? Because you are going to take the money as a covenant of marriage. And that marriage is forever. When you understand that point, you will no longer treat money just as something that you spend outside. Would you take your wife and give her to the shopkeeper and say, give me some peanuts for her and keep her? Since you don't treat your wife like that, you have a marriage with her, and your marriage means that if she goes with you to buy peanuts and you give some money, cash, and you bring your wife home with you, and you get the peanuts, and you both come and eat the peanuts, and you both enjoy them, that means you're going to treat the money the same way. You give with one hand, and you tada it, you thank you it, and it comes to the other hand. It circulates, it comes to you back. Again, why? Because you have a covenant with money of marriage. Your wife will return back to you when you understand that point what I just gave you. And none of these gurus out there will teach you that. You must have a relationship with money. And the relationship is like the covenant of marriage. It is exactly that covenant. When you have that covenant, money will never leave you. But when you don't have a covenant, well, there's no belonging. Because you don't have a covenant. You don't have no oath. Nothing. It's going to leave you. And then what? Then you're going to be back on to Uncle Sam? But but if you had a covenant of marriage with money, just as you had a covenant of marriage with your spouse, would you want to leave your spouse, or does your spouse want to leave you? I'd probably submit to you no. If you love each other, you don't want to leave each other. So this is why you will make a covenant of marriage with money, and this is what you need to do. You need to take some of your notes out of your precious wallet. And there was a guy, we used to work with, and I remember the joke. His name was Michael, and we used to work together in London. And the friends around us, they used to joke and say, they're saying Michael's wallet cranks. It needs a crane to open it. Because even they said he was very tight. He doesn't take any money out. So, you want to take some notes out of your wallet, and you want to set a covenant with money. Take your $10 note out, or take your £5 note out, or your £20 note out, or your €5 note out, or your €100 note out. You hold it, and you talk to it, and you tell it, I have a covenant with you today. From this day forth, I make a covenant with you. A covenant of marriage. Our love will last forever. And we will be with each other forever and forever. And we will do great things together. That is a covenant you make with money. And when you make that covenant, you will never be short of that money. That paper money that looks like paper actually is energy that will stay with you for the rest of your life. So, the 2021, the first thing you do is you pick up whatever note you have, whatever currency you live in, whatever country, whatever currency, and you pick up only one note from that currency. And you just speak to it with that covenant. And you establish a covenant of a marriage relationship. And you have to say exactly the vows that you do with your marriage. And what's the vows that God made Abraham say? And it says Abraham believed God, and God credited to him for righteousness. Means that God will now give him everything, and he will acquire everything the right way. And Abraham did. We read our history, and it tells us that Abraham was very affluent. And Abraham's children were even more affluent than him. I mean, if you come down Abraham's line, and you come down to people like King David, King Solomon, you can read about their life. Their life was tremendous. Tremendously affluent people. Very powerful as well. And yet, they also were the progeny of Abraham. And you can come down further. You can come down today to the Middle Eastern nations, to the Arabs, that also belong to Abraham. They are also Abraham's children. Although they may be doing their own thing, but they're also blessed tremendously. And if you move on, and you see wherever Abraham's children are today, and if they know anything about Torah, if they know anything about how to activate Torah in their lives, they're very blessed. Incredibly blessed. But one thing that I keep telling you is that you must understand that in order to ratify the covenant, whether it's a covenant of marriage, with money, with spouse, with Torah, because we also have a Torah covenant, several covenants. We must, in order to circulate the energy of money, we must be in compliance with money. In other words, in compliance with Torah. And the Torah's compliance is very simple. That God says that these are the things that you do, A, B, C, D, E, F. He gives you a few scenarios. That these are the things that you should do, and you will get. And this will never, then God declares to you that all these blessings are for you. Well, what does God talk about? God talks about tithing. God talks about Zadakah. And God talks about the priesthood. And God says that in every generation, and God says there'll be a priest in your gate. And you go and speak to that priest. If you ever have a problem, you speak to that priest. And that Kohen in the gate, he will listen to you. And what he will tell you is whatever words he tells you are my words. And do them. And it then goes on to say, if you don't do them, and you continue to do your own thing, then you'll be cut off. Meaning, you're cut off from the blessings. Entirely up to you. There is no gun to your head. Nobody's putting a gun to your head and saying you must do it. But you have the choice and the free will. Our Torah covenants are powerful. The question is, are you even doing any of them? So with that question, I'm going to let you go and enjoy your 2021 with your families. And I say a blessing over you in the name of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. May you be blessed this year and forevermore. In Abba Yahweh's name, the one who created us, the one who sent us over here, the one who separated us, and the one who put us into the nations. So with that, it's over to you, Rabbi Kefa, Todah, and have a great Shabbat and great week ahead.
Yeah, Todah, Rabbi Hakohi, and if I could be heard, could I get a one really quick here? Do some changes on this end. If you celebrate the new year, we're in the nation, so hey, Happy New Year. But again, like Hakohi told you, our calendar states that we have 4 New Years within what they call a year's time frame. So, Baruch Hashem for that. So we got one gearing up right around Passover time frame, if I'm not mistaken. So, we'll keep it moving. We'll keep it moving going forward and enjoy the benefits of these nations while we're in these nations. Remember we talked about last Shabbat that the blessings are not, only, under the understanding that you have to be in Israel to be blessed. As Hakohi told in his lecture, distinctly that the blessings follow Israel wherever the sons of Israel are, the sons of Jacob, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Baruch Hashem. So that greatness goes with us wherever we are. You can be great. You're not here to get goosebumps and get some kind of feeling, a feel-good moment, but you're here to have perpetual greatness that you have already. you've always had perpetual greatness, but, it's unfortunate that has been disguised amongst the conditioning that we received in the nations, to where, like our Kohen said, some have been in religions for 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, their whole life. They have been married to religion. And that turnaround does not happen overnight. So it's going to require patience and persistence to, do the turnaround, to have the paradigm shift, to awake, O Israel, and to go back to the first love, Baruch Hashem, which is the Torah. Torah will stand forever. We see many different variations of Torah today. We see many pick and choose and pull from our history and use things to fit and suit their needs. But I tell you, Torah is forever, and Torah will not change. Israel, we have to come back to Torah. Sons of Jacob, we must come back to Torah. Daughters of Jacob, we must come back to Torah. More importantly, sons of Yisrael, we must come back to Torah. Sons and daughters of Yisrael, we must come back to Torah. Now, it's not so much a must, but it's a decision and it's a choice. So, on that front, I would like to put out a question to our Kohen early, real quick. This is one that came through during the week, but I figured I'd hold it till today. So those that are listening via YouTube and live in the room as well, this may answer a question for you as well, to where you don't have to go through and send the email. The question was from, one of the sons of Israel. Is that what other colors of candles can one use in their house to ward off evil spirits, Akohi? That's the question going forward. He talked about indigo being one of them, as he had received instruction from you, but he also wanted to know what other colors of candles can be lit in your home that can ward off evil spirits, ward off the negativity, ward off, we're going to talk about negativity in a minute, because that's evil spirits times 10, because it's the negativity that can keep you down. So you'll find, and if our Kohen stepped out, I'll ask the question later on, so no worries there. You'll find that the majority of time, Kohen says the white color, if no other color is available, or a dial oil lamp, the white color is very effective. Now, I don't know how many of you grew up watching horror flicks, or you even like watching these, poltergeist and the priest carrying the cross movies. Any of you ever seen any of those movies before? If you note in these horror flicks, and I was thinking about that this week as well, did you note, Olive, of Vive la France, that every time there's always white candles lit around, for these, any of you ever notice that? If you go back and you picture in your mind these movies that you've watched before that, have maybe like a evil intent to them or some kind of, you ever notice that there's a whole bunch of white candles, especially in Catholicism? If any of you have been in Catholicism, man, they have white candles galore. And I'm telling you from experience, because I used to be an altar boy, went through catechism and all the other mumbo jumbo. And so white is like the mainstay color of Catholicism. Find that very interesting as well. So you'll see that white will be an effective candle, Baruch Hashem, going forward. So you might want to take that and use that. But you'll find that a lot of the negativity that you'll see will come from yourself. A lot of times we give the negative forces too much credit. When all the negative forces are come in the form, and they manifest in the form of emotions. And how many of you, because what we're going to do today is kind of examine Jacob's life. As we see in this parsha, that Jacob takes his last breath and he's gathered to his fathers, Baruch Hashem, or he gathered to his people. That's what the Torah tells us. And again, that's something we have to look forward to. But we don't waste our lives looking forward to being gathered to our people. How many of you are doing that? Because there's too many other things going on. But like our Kohen mentioned, this is one of the stumbling blocks in the way of a lot of people that's missing the mark. Is because we've been conditioned in religion is to wait for that moment. That moment. Wait on the rapture. But what are you doing in the meantime? And so we carry that baggage with us into our reversion or conversion into the Torah of Moshe, the Torah of Abraham, the Torah of Isaac and Jacob, is that we anticipate and we wait for that moment where we be gathered to our people. Well, that's not conducive for success and abundance and multiplicity and prosperity. No, we must live our lives every day, meeting marks that we desire for ourselves, our dreams, our heartfelt, things that we want in our life. Now, like, I don't want a wife when I die, and I definitely don't want 70-odd virgins when I die. I want a wife now. Give me that virgin now. I'll take the virgin now, Alex, for $500. May your soul rest in peace, Baruch Hashem. Alex Trebek. So I think it's very important that we understand it is what we desire things and we want them now. And what'll happen is those negative forces will come in and disguise themselves as anticipation. Well, I'm anticipating this happening. I'm anticipating a rapture. I'm anticipating a heaven. I'm anticipating a hell. And so I live in fear and blah, 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 because of the anticipation of a hell. Well, right now, at this moment, you're not living in hell right now, and you're definitely not in heaven right now, but you can make a life, a better life for yourself, a life that you find conducive to happiness, peace, love, and joy at the end of the day. I mean, money can definitely express happiness at another level, but again, I know a lot of folks that are not what I would consider rich in my own understanding, and they're just as happy and content and just as loving as they want to be. How many of you know people like that? Who that desire is not to run after money, but they understand that they need money to live the quality of life and put food on the table and a roof over their head. But their ambition and their drive is not to have loads of money, but they're totally happy. They're totally happy and content within themselves. You know what I say to that? Baruch Hashem. Whilst I know others that want to utilize the energy of money to do great things for many people, and that can happen as well. But so it's wherever you fit in the prism or in the spectrum of humanity, to where you can find that peace, love, happiness, and joy for yourself. And as Gregory's New Year has kicked off, Gregorian New Year has kicked off, my desire is that all of you in this room and listening via YouTube find that happy place. There's this movie called Happy Foot, where when he was happy, boy, that foot, he make his foot happy, and his foot would make everybody else around him happy because he started tap dancing and blah, blah, blah. How many of you seen that, the Happy Foot Penguin movie, the movie that penguin? I mean, that made him happy at Torah, and he made others around him happy with his feet, right? Yael, woman of the tent. He made others, with his feet, he made them happy. So whatever form your happiness comes in, what that's going to do, Jacob, right, is that's going to make, when you happy and your feet are moving, then everything around you will get happy. It's amazing how these movies can really motivate and really help you see that the happiness must start within yourself. Whilst others may think you're kooky and crazy, like they did, right? They thought that penguin was crazy. He was unorthodox, and he never really fit in, so they thought. But he ended up being the savior, the rescue, the redemption for the whole of the penguin race that was getting ready to get taken out, Baruch Hashem. Wasn't that a great movie? It's called Happy Feet. Little penguin on it. Great movie, great lesson within the movie. So we have to really learn from this as human beings. And I heard this statement this week that really, really stuck with me. And I would encourage you all to write it down and remember this statement as well. Sometimes you win. How many of you can finish the rest of the statement? Sometimes you win and sometimes you what? How many of you can finish the rest of that for me? If you can, just text it in. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Tadav for that, Tar. Eddie's, Shabbat Shalom to you and Tadav for that, Eddie's. I tell you, Eddie's is going to be a most miraculous and wonderful year of trading in 2021. I'm telling you. It is, Eddie's. I'm just letting you know. You prepare for it because it's coming. Your account is going to quadruple. It's going to quintuple, Baruch Hashem. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. That's what they say, right? But listen to this statement. Sometimes you win, Nakshan, and sometimes you learn. Think about what I just said. And I apply that to the life of Jacob or Israel. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. Because how many of you in this room will ascribe to being a loser? I don't think Jacob was a loser. I don't think Israel is definitely not a loser. But think about this for a minute. Sometimes you win and then sometimes you learn. You don't lose. You're not a loser. But you learn from the experience that you went through. Maybe you didn't win according to your standard, but you learned a lot, right? How many of you have instances in your life where you can really affirm it and you can agree and sympathize and empathize with that statement? It's sometimes that you win and sometimes that you learn. You learn through relationships in a marriage. You learn through relationship with a job, an employer, a friend. Sometimes you win. The relationship is awesome and it stays that way forever. But then sometimes it gets rocky. Sometimes, just like Akoin taught us a long time ago, but he's reaffirmed that as well today, is that sometimes you're Jacob and sometimes you're Israel, right? Baruch Hashem, and remind me of that commercial of that particular candy I used to like back in the day. And it went like this. Sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't. I mean, you remember that? I mean, you remember that commercial? That's way back in the day. Sometimes you feel like a nut, Atara, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like Jacob. There you go, Yael, woman of that almond joy. My goodness, what a good candy bar that is. Sometimes you feel like Jacob, whilst sometimes you feel like Israel, while other times you don't. You see? So that doesn't mean that you're not a great person, but it's important that we understand is that you're going to go through the ebbs and flows, just like Jacob. When we examine Jacob's life, we all understand that he went through ebbs and flows. And we understand that sometimes he embraced negativity. Jacob the human embraced negativity sometimes. Wow, surprise, surprise. Jacob the human was a human being, just like you and I. And sometimes the negativity will try to creep in. When you look at Jacob's life, can anybody give me an adjective that Jacob used, a negative adjective that he used to describe his life in his actions? Anybody? When you look at Jacob's life, when you examine Jacob's life, can you give me an adjective that can be used to describe Jacob? In any event or any situation, there you go, Atara. There you go, Adelia. Sorry about that, Adelia. Depression was a big one, wasn't it? And he embraced depression for a very, very long time. Anybody have another adjective that can be used to describe Jacob? At some time, Jacob the human, because he was a human being, Mishpah, at the end of the day. Superhuman being at that. Yeah, he mourned a lot, but we all do that when we go through, it's called the grieving process. When we go through, the death of a loved one, you're going to mourn. Of course you're going to mourn. Yeah, he had doubt, didn't he? He had a lot of doubt. He sure did. He had a lot of doubt. He doubted at times. But yet, at the same time, do you see that he was afraid? There you go, Atara. He was afraid. That's another. You guys are coming up with some great adjectives. Can we add another one to that? Did he worry a lot? Oh, of course he was worrisome and he was depressed. Hey, can we add another one to that? Maybe he was sad. Wasn't he sad a lot? He was sad. And he was always worrying. He was worrying like, man. So now I want you to take that and I want you to see this. Look at Genesis. And again, I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth We Break Scrolls. I want you to look at Genesis 49:1, where it says, and Yaakov called his sons and said, gather together that I may tell you what will befall you in the last days. That I may do what? That I may do what? That I may tell you what will befall you in the last days. Anywhere in Torah, do we see that explained in the black and white in Torah? Before Jacob took his last breath and went to sleep with his people? Do we see his sons being told what's going to befall them in the last days? I know all of you read your parsha and you read it many, many times. and you read through, you're students of the Torah. But do we see that Jacob or Israel at one point, at any time, is he telling them what may befall them in the last days? We don't see that, do we? You want to know why? You want to know why we don't see that with Jacob? It's because he understood that that his sons weren't ready for that. Because again, guess what they would start doing? They would start worrying. They would be consumed thinking about what's going to happen later on instead of focusing on the now and the characteristics and the traits that he had given to all of his sons before they passed. Their strengths and their weaknesses as well. He focused on both, but he let them know about themselves before he went to, be gathered to his people. But he didn't want them worrying about, oh man, my father said this was going to happen. Do you get it? And believe me, a lot of people fall in that boat because they listen to the words. Yaakov mentioned in his lecture is that words have power, and they do. So you got, with some folks, because of their maturity level in the spiritual and their human maturity level, you have to be careful what you tell people, right? You have to be very careful, and you have to guard what you tell people. So no wonder, and I see why Jacob never opened up and began to tell his sons what he told them to be gathered for. Gather together. They may tell you what may befall you in the last days. He never did do that. He never did do that. But I tell you what, Joseph had an insight of what was going to happen. He had insight, but he only told them. And before Joseph took his letter, he said, surely Elohim will come and visit you. You're going to get a visit from Elohim while you're here in Egypt. He's going to come and visit you. And when he does, make sure you I'm paraphrasing, when he does, take my bones out. When you leave out of here, don't forget my bones. Take them with you and bring them back to the Holy Land, to the Promised Land, to the land that's forever promised to Israel, no matter where we are in the world right now. Baruch Hashem. So, whether you believe it or not, I'm going to tell you the facts. You are already owners of lands, Baruch Hashem. You're owners of lands. You're in the real estate business, whether you want to be in it or not, Baruch Hashem. I would encourage you to expand it. Take that talent and go make some more talents with it, Baruch Hashem. Expand it. We're Israel. That's what we do. We're Israel. Always take the lead from the Kohen. I'm telling you, you want to know what's going on with Israel? Watch the Kohen. He'll tell you. Watch him. Not so much what he says, but look at his actions. His actions will tell you right now, he's in Pakistan right now, and he's spending a lot of time with his family. What does that mean? Think about that for a minute. Is that I need to be, wherever I'm going to be, selling and spending time with my family. That's what's important. Right now, in this period that we're in right now, that's what's important. For us to spend time with our families. Bed them down, spend time with them, nourish them, encourage them, uplift them, strengthen our families. That's what's important right now. Prepare our families for multiplicity, not division, not dividing, but actually uniting our families. Baruch Hashem. Loving on our families. This is what's important at the end of the day. As we look at the period that we're in right now, follow the lead of the Kohen, and you'll do yourself a great service going forward. So we see that when the gathering of the sons came together, that Israel, or even Joseph, never told his sons anything about what may befall them in the last days. Because guess what? Some can't handle it. And then some would take the wordings or, the prophecy and only focus on that and quit producing. Quit producing now. Oh, well, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for my family. Because then they're always worried in the back of their mind. Oh, my father said this is going to happen, and we're going to go into this. And then, we're going to be, oh, man, that's just so much. How are we going to get out of it? Then you start worrying about the how. Don't worry about the how. Focus on the now. The how will take care of itself. And who cares how the how comes about? I hear one of the families going to be inheriting a car. I bet they couldn't even imagine that how part. Oh, yeah, this is how I'm going to get the car. I'm going to get the car through an inheritance, through another relative. There's no time in wasting energy on the how. Just the now that you do have the car. Baruch Hashem. You have the car now. That's what's important. It's focusing on what you desire. You see, because when you veer off of that, and what you dream about, when you veer off of that, or what you want today, now, when you veer off of that, then it gets kind of murky. The waters get kind of murky because then you start wading the waters of doubt, wading the waters of worry, wading the waters of sadness because, oh man, it's been 10 days and nothing has materialized yet. Rabbi Kefa and Hakohen always talking about results, and I don't see any results yet. See, doubt will start setting in. Then you start getting sad. Then you start feeling like, oh man, then I must not be Israel because I'm not seeing all these blessings. They're not coming to me. You see what I mean? I'm telling you, you start wading in those waters, it gets kind of murky, doesn't it? Devorah says it's hard to move forward when you keep looking back. Oh, indeed it is, Devorah. Well said, well put. It surely is. See, you have to focus on the now. See, this is what we do when we examine Jacob the human. He was a human being. Superhuman being, in my opinion. Yisrael. Had his name changed, Baruch Hashem. How many of you are due for a name change? And speaking of him talking to let's just jump there anyway. Speaking of him talking to his sons, in Genesis 49:1, Jacob says, the Torah tells us, and Yaakov called his sons and said, gather together that I may tell you what may befall you in the last days. Look at verse 2. Gather together and hear, O sons of Jacob, and listen to Yisrael, your father. You see, you get the name change happening just in that one verse. The Torah tells us, Jacob's sons are coming, and they're getting ready to hear from Israel. Baruch Hashem. Now, in the sons' hearing, they heard many things. Each son had something said about him. Now, this is a question that I have for you. How many of you, clans of Yisrael, clans of Jacob, children of Yisrael, how many of you know where you fit in the puzzle? When you see, this requires you have to examine yourself here. The character of the sons of Yisrael. How many of you know which character traits marry with you? With what Jacob or what Israel told his sons, how many of you know where you fit when you read through this? How many of you know what clan you're from right now? Put up a capital C if you know that you know without a shadow of a doubt what clan that you're from. Anybody? Put up a capital C. You know that you know. Why? Because you can see it right here. Not so much in what is said, but you'll be able, if you don't have it figured out, then look at your actions. Examine your actions. What suits you? Examine your actions, because that's how you're going to know where you fit in the clans. Some of you may not be asking that question yet. Some of you may already know. It's okay. But I'm giving you the formula. You have to look at, number one, ask the Kohen. He'll be able to help you. But he's going to look at your character makeup. And he's going to see where you fit in according to what was told by Israel to his sons before taking his last breath and being gathered to his people. This is how you're going to figure that out. This is how you're going to figure it out. Is by your character, by your actions. Not so much by what you're saying, because people can tell you stuff all the time. But if it's not backed up with actions, then it's futile. Just like, they can tell you that, oh my goodness, here in North America, we're sending out these $600 checks. Okay, they told you they're sending out the $600 checks, stimulus checks, but until you get the action of receiving that check in the mail, or they even talking about $200,000. I mean, $200,000 checks would be nice, but even talking about $2,000 checks. So, regardless if whatever they're talking about, what have you seen materialize in your life right now, North Americans? Have you seen, these checks show up in your bank accounts yet? Electronically wired or in check form with President Donald Trump's name on it? You see, if they only begin to talk it, but not walk it, you're going to have a lot of individuals upset. Because you say, wait a minute, you said, government, Uncle Sam, that you were going to send this out, but you never did. You see where we're going with that? So it's always good to look at the actions of an individual. And that requires you being a student of human nature, just as much so as you're a student of the Torah. You must become a student of human nature. To where you understand as a student, okay, they're talking a good game, but let's see if they can back that game up with the actions. So here, you must look at the tribes and tribal affiliation and say, okay, well, where do I fit in? What suits me? What suits me? And then, mishpachah, family, you're home. Then you're home. And then you're home. I know that was one of the first questions that I had coming into the way. Is why, okay, who am I? Who are my ancestors? What is my clan? And eventually, over time, it came to me, but it didn't come to me quickly. Hakohen told me quickly. But it took me a while to really embrace it, because I was like, wait a minute. And then I began to read. I began to read what Yisrael told his sons. And I began to look at the characteristics of the tribes and say, well, yeah, I get it now. That surely does suit me. I'm home. I am home now. All the actions that I've been doing my whole life, I see why. I see why. And you look at that based upon the actions. What has been going on in your life? And for me, mishpachah, I've always been put in positions of leadership. Be it in the military, I was always a leader. I was never much of a follower. You know what I mean? Even in high school, you know how they have the cliques? I didn't get with no cliques. People were following me. You know what I mean? Sports, same way. Always popular, very popular, most likely to succeed. That was Rabbi Kefa. Picture of me. So now I get it. So this is how you go through the process. You go back and you look at your life and you say, well, what are my characteristics? You see? And this is how you find out where you fit and what suits you. Tribal affiliation. I remember how Kohen given instruction time and time again as people come into the way of Abraham. He would always tell them, that's not important right now, because that'd be one of the first questions they have. That's not important right now. But there will come a time to where, you'll get it and the light bulb will come on. But initially, that's not important. Right now, Torah has other things for you to consider and to line up with and to get in line with and to embrace. And those other things will come later. Baruch Hashem. And they did, and they do. And I'm pretty sure for all of you, that's probably the story of you as well. That, tribal affiliation wasn't the first things, top of the list when you come back into the Torah. No, you wanted to become compliant with the Torah. You wanted to embrace the Torah, dive into it, really begin to understand what's permitted, what's not permitted, and go on living your life in a happy, merry way. Finding happiness, finding yourself, finding that peace instead of just saying it with words. Oh, I'm going to give you a shalom with words, but man, my life is chaotic. My life is literally a disaster. Then let's fix that. But, for the most part, the most successful people in life are those people that are willing to deal with themselves. They're willing to look at life and say, sometimes I win, and then sometimes I learn. But I'm not a loser. I look at my past relationships. They weren't losing relationships. Even though they ended in divorce, they weren't losing relationships. I gained so much experience in those relationships. How many of you on that boat with me? I've gained so much. I didn't lose anything. Well, Rabbi Kefa, you don't understand. They took all my money. They took it. I'm paying child support, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't lose. You paid child support. You gained a child out of that relationship. Too many times folks want to focus on the negativity. You don't lose, mishpachah. You're winners. How are you going to be great, but you lose at the same time? I call him some of the pictures where he went to, I think it was Edison. He went to his house and stuff, and all these inventions that he had and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, some of them didn't pan out, but they weren't losers. They just prepared them to the next invention, or they propelled them to, go even further and make it even better. But you don't lose. And all of you in this room and listening via YouTube, you're inventors and you're creators. You are. At what level you're at, I don't know that. Only you can honestly, only you can honestly gauge that for yourself. But see yourself as great in everything that you do. And then you'll never be a loser because you're great. And you're successful. And you're prosperous. Nowhere in the passage that was read by Kohen in our Torah does it mention in Genesis 48:16, and the Malach who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads. Let my name be upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. This ain't anything about loser in there. All I hear is positivity, positive energy, positive way of life, positive way of carrying yourself, multiplying, not dividing, by the way. We're not here to do any division. If your actions is about division, then you may want to check your character. And you may want to check out your Torah. Because Torah doesn't divide. Torah is all inclusive. The father of our way of life, Abraham, had his door open for everybody. Come on in, my friend. Wasn't about, okay, well, are you a Republican or are you Democrat? Who did you vote for? Did you vote for Trump? Are you kidding me? Come on, man. Do you believe in abortion? Or do you believe in same-gender marriage? Oh, I can't bake you a cake because this cake, you want me to bake it for a marriage that's for same gender. And I don't agree with that. Wow. Do you see what I mean? Division. You're putting up dividing lines to separate. Oh, you eat pork? Oh, you can't sit down with me. Are you kidding me? Oh, you like to eat the shrimp? I don't like you. You're evil and you're a sinner and you're going to hell. You see what I mean? Putting up these divisions based on ignorance. You see? And my goodness, the color one. Oh, you're not dark enough to be a Hebrew. Your hair is not curly enough. Oh, you white, so you of the sons of Satan. Because you white and white ain't right. Are you kidding me, man? But you hear these things going on all around you. All around you. You hear them, don't receive them. You hear them, and you need to combat that with some peace and love and joy. That's what's important. So what character suits you? What character suits you? Examine you. Examine you. Examine self. And you'll figure it out. It's not for your responses, by the way. For knowing what clan you're from, because that's important. Knowing what family you come from. That is important. As you get down the line, and as you get experienced in the way of Abraham, that does get important. Because now you're really honing in. You're really embracing and you're really honing in on your true heritage. Your true heritage. Not what identity, ancestry, da-da-da gonna give you. No, your true heritage, Mishpachah. And it truly is beautiful. It truly, truly is beautiful. So we see Jacob coming to the end of his life. He does come to the end of his life. And we look at his life and we say, yeah, Jacob had those moments. And I'm telling you, Mishpachah, you're going to have those moments and they're going to creep in. They're going to creep in. You're human beings. Recognize the moment that you're in, the mood that you're in, the emotion that you're dealing with. You see, because in life, you must be honest with yourself. You may be fooling a lot of people around you, but I would encourage you to be honest with yourself and to be able to see things for yourself. Not what other people tell you, not what these books are telling you, all this mumbo jumbo in books. I'm not a follower of books. I'm a follower of a way of life, the way of life of our forefather Abraham. And not so much about what Abraham said, but what Abraham did. Look at his life and see what he did. I look at Yitzhak's life and I see what he did. Look at his actions. Judge a person by their actions, not by what they say to you. Words are hairy-fairy. They're powerful, but they're hairy-fairy. But what action are you going to take on those words is key. Words come to you, what are you going to do? You're going to reject them or you're going to receive them? Are you going to meditate on them, or are you going to just delete them? Delete them from your system. Totally delete them. And you're going to keep it moving for what's better for you. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, Mishpahah, but you're never a loser. You're never a loser. You don't lose anything. You don't lose anything. You grow and let them grow into a multitude. You grow. You don't lose. And growth, how you going to lose? You can't, because you're continually growing. Thus another G word that I mentioned in this lecture. You continue to be great. Baruch Hashem, because you're growing. So you win, and then you learn, and then you grow. That's life. You win, you learn, and then you grow. That is the basics of life. I saw my son Nakshan come out of my wife's womb. He came out whining. No, actually, he wasn't really whining. He was spewing water like a Chinese dragon. I was like, man, this is a dragon coming at me. The doctor raises him up and said, here's your son. Changed my life. Like, here's your son. And she gives him to me. And he's just spewing out water like a dragon. I'm like, wow, I got a Chinese dragon for a son. Baruch Hashem. So, Nakshan didn't come out saying, I'm a loser, I'm a loser. He came out whining and wanted the embrace of his mother and his father. And just as quiet as can be, he came out peaceful. He come out crying. Doctor didn't have to, tap him on the bottom. You know how you see the movies? The doctor, spats him on the bottom. He started crying. Wow. Nakshan didn't do all that. He came out fiery hot. He was just so warm. Came out fiery hot and water coming out of his mouth. Here's your son. That's what the doctor told me. I'll never forget that. As long as I live, I'll never forget that. And my life changed in such a marvelous and beautiful way. And now I can report to you, Baruch Hashem, these past 6 days of labor have really been labor of love for me, because Nakshan is now off the breast milk. He come off 15 months, come off the breast milk, kept the breast milk going a little bit longer because of COVID. Wanted to give him all the nourishment that he can get to empower his body and strengthen his body. But I looked at my wife, and my wife went through, it's called mastitis. I don't know how many of you women in the room have been through that. But I tell you what, my wife went through it, and for a labor of love, for about a week, my goodness, breasts were just as hard as a rock. Temperatures 104 and above. But Hakohen is absolutely right. You can use the words, those 22 characters, those Hebrew words, those Hebrew letters, they have power. And they helped my wife through it. And she got through it. She surely got through it. But mastitis is no joke. I really have a higher appreciation for women than I ever had before in my life. I never thought I would have a higher appreciation for a woman. But a woman, I honor them and I raise them up higher and higher. Because why? I continue to grow. And I continue to win. And I continue to understand that I'm learning more. So if I can learn more, then I can also even love even more. Correct? And so I began to see that with my wife as she went through mastitis and came out a winner. Because she is a winner. But I tell you, that's a labor of love right there, because, she couldn't even get out of the bed. That's some pain. Breasts were just as hard as a rock. Very hot. I could have fried an egg on them. Much pain. But now Nakshan is partaking of the cow milk and drinks a lot of water now. Baruch Hashem. He's continuing to grow. I tell you, he eats like a Hebrew. He eats like a Hebrew. He eats like his forefather, for sure. Sleeps all through the night now. I tell you, it's beautiful. Why? Because I already seen these things before they even happened. It's going to happen this way. Because of my belief in the way. I believe it with every part of my being. And so I create an environment of peace, love, and joy and happiness. and of success and of being a winner, not a loser, not being a complainer, not sitting here whining and dying and feeling sorry for myself. There's no time for that because myself is great. I don't need to feel sorry for myself, complaining and whining. There's no call for that. There's no time for that. That's the sign of a weak person. That's weakness. And there's another reason why you can have an excuse why you don't or why you're not successful instead of working hard and understand that it requires hard work to get to where you are and to get where you want to be. And then when obstacles come your way, what do? You adapt and you overcome. I'm teaching that to Nakshan now. You adapt and you overcome the obstacle. You can adapt. There's more than one way to get to the top of the tree. And you can overcome and you can get to the top. But you got to be persistent. You got to be resilient. You got to be willing to stand for what you believe at the core of your base. And do you know, Mishpachah, that's the problem that a lot of folks have. They don't have a core of their base. They have no base. They have no foundation. So when the storms come, they're quickly swayed or they quickly knocked down and they don't get back up. They quickly knocked down and they don't get back up. Nakshan falls so many times now. Boy, he trips and falls. Boom. He falls down, tripping over toys and Lego blocks and blah, blah, blah. He cries for a minute, but he gets back up. And then he forgets that he fell down. And he goes back and play and on his merry way. That's what it's supposed to be like. You fall down, you get back up. You learn a lesson. Okay, I don't need to step on that toy anymore, otherwise I'm going to fall down. That's the lesson that's learned. You don't lose anything, you just learn a lesson. So the next time you won't do it anymore. When you look back at your history and you look at all the experiences that you've been in, see them as a lesson. Don't see them as loss. You learn from that. Don't sit there and dwell on the loss because there's so much winning to do. Win, win, win. You're a winner. You're great. You're greatness. You're a winner. You're going to fight some battles. Always know that you've won the war already. You have redemption. So much for rescue, right? You have redemption. Baruch Hashem. It's already caked. It's already baked in and caked in. And you're eating of that wonderful cake. Baruch Hashem. It already is. And so right now, we need to concern ourselves with what? With what do we want to do now? Not when are we going to be gathered to our people. That's irrelevant. That will happen when it happens. What are you doing in between? Jacob did a lot in between. And when it was time for him to be gathered to his people, he was gathered to his people. But he had moments when he was just Jacob. And he had moments when his name was changed. And then he had moments when Israel, his new name was written in the Torah. Then he had moments when he was just Jacob. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. But through all that, what is proven here is that the covenant stands forever. Torah stands forever. Is Jacob has redemption. Israel has redemption. Baruch Hashem. Through ups and downs. Jacob didn't sit there mourning on it. Oh, I'm a sinner, chicken dinner. All that time I wasted in mourning and in sadness and in depression. No, he didn't focus on that. Israel stepped in and said, you know what? I've been redeemed. I am redeemed. I have redemption. And I want to pass that redemption on to my sons and my sons' sons. They have that redemption. Don't let nobody tell you you don't have the redemption. You do. So you don't have to waste your energy questioning yourself. I see the commercials now on TV right now. Are you going to heaven? Do you want to know if you're going to heaven? There's no questions over here. You come over here in the way of Abraham, you're going to get answers. And you're going to get results. And you're going to get peace. And you're going to get love. And you're going to get happiness. Because that's what life truly really is. And that's an abundance of a life. Not no questions. Oh, man. Do I have to question where I'm going after this, journey on this earth? No. We're living the life of the journey. We're living the life of the journey now. Not question whether you're going to some heaven or some hell, but that's the question amongst those that are still conditioned to the camps of religion. Am I going to make it in? Am I going to get in by the hair of my chinny chin? I'm going to just squeak it in? Or is St. Peter going to lose the key to the gate, to the pearly gate? This bunch of foolishness, man. But that's where everybody's energy is placed. Right now. Thus, they don't get on with the wonderful life that's out here. The beautiful life out here. They're busy worrying about, are they going to be gathered to their people? What's going to happen after I die? Forget all that. What are you doing now while you're alive? Examine your life. Just as we examine Jacob's life. Find our place. We're blessed people. We'll always be blessed. But the question is, do you see yourself as blessed? Blessed is greatness. Then be great. Because you are blessed. Be greatness. And whatever you see as great. Because amongst everyone in this room, we're going to have a variance of what we see as great and greatness. That's going to vary. But as long as when you look within yourself, can say, I'm great, then you're great. And nobody can tell you otherwise. You are great. And you look at our patriarchs and matriarchs, greatness varies. But they're great in their own way. As believers in the way of Abraham. They're great in their own way. And as you can see with the tribes, with the clans of Israel, is that they bring greatness to the table in many different ways. Many different ways. Many different abilities. Many different abilities. And we all have ability. But many different abilities comes that greatness. I look at these Gentile nations, especially the one that I'm in, and you're right, Hakoe, they make these resolutions. And they don't hold up to them. And it seems like the resolutions are the same ones every year. Why is that? Because they don't hold up to them. They don't meet the resolution. So it's the same one every year. Like he said, they'll start this resolution before you know it, they're back in the 2021 mode or 2020 mode. Because they give up or they have doubt. They doubt themselves. The resolutions don't stand because the people don't have a relationship with themselves. When you have the relationship with yourself, you'll be willing to go the extra mile. You'll be willing to hang in there and be resistant and persistent. Stay the course. Meet your goal. Come Shiloh or Sheol. Goal's going to be met. Then you move on to the next one. 2021 is going to be such a great year in this nation that I'm in. It's great. I'm telling you, it's going to be a great year. It's going to be an awesome year. And you all are going to be the personification of greatness. You're going to envision this, visualize this. Look up the word greatness in your dictionary. Imagine yourself flipping through a dictionary right now. You're looking for the word greatness. And when you get to that page where it says greatness, it has a picture of you there. Your picture is there. Your illustration, your picture is there. It's like, whoa. Yeah, because you're great. It's a picture of you there. You know, some dictionaries that give you illustrations. They give you a bunch of mamby-pamby words or explanation, description. But then sometimes they have a picture or an illustration. It's your picture there. Because you are greatness. And everybody around you sees you as great. Well, that's not what they tell me with their words, Rabbi. They calling me every name under the sun. So be it. But you see your name. You see yourself as great, and everybody else around you see you as great because that's what you are. That's the kind of mindset that you need to have going into it. That's the kind of foundation that will never falter and can never be swayed. Are you going to have your moments to where doubt will come in, some negativity will creep in? You're a human. You're human just like Jacob. Jacob the human. your name, the human, because you are a human being too. But that doesn't take away redemption. That doesn't take away the covenants. Because the covenants were given to human beings. Baruch Hashem. Wasn't given to angelic beings. They were given to human beings. The covenants were given to human beings. You and I and our ancestors. So the mantle for us going forward is to take the mantle and to continue to walk with it if we have to, or continue to run with it if we have to, regardless. Fast walk, whatever you want to put in between. Stroll, cruise, however you want to say it. But we're to continue. We're to continue and carry on. Carry on with the mantra of the way to live, to where you can live and be abundant and live a life that's full of abundance. And when you're ready to rest, when it's your time, just like we read in Genesis chapter 49, verses 33. So when Yaakov had finished commanding his sons, he drew up his feet. He drew his feet up into his bed, and he breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Beautiful. Beautiful ending to a journey on the face of this earth. Did Jacob have his ups and downs? Absolutely. So, what do we learn from that? Is that we too are going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have our moments. But we are to know and to recognize these moments for what they are. To where we don't stay there too long. As a human, we don't stay there too long. We dust ourselves out and we get back up and we keep it moving. And we learn that sometimes we win and sometimes we learn. Isn't that beautiful? Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And that's the beauty of it. We're not going to let it hinder us, Eddies, and say, okay, oh, well, I lost money on that stock. I'm a loser. And we don't get back in the game and take another stock and take another trade on the stock because we lost one, or maybe lost, maybe 3 out of 10. Come on, man. That's good. That's some good odds. So you see, because you got to keep trying. Maybe you're not in the stock market. Maybe it's in something else. Maybe you're into, creating things. Just because, one invention fails, you don't stop. Just because one idea fails, you don't stop. You say, okay, I learned from that. Let's move on to the next one. You see, with religion, it's heaven or bust. That's it. That's your look. It's heaven or bust, hell wide open. Am I correct? That's what you're going to get with religion. It's either heaven or bust. Either you're going to make it in or you're not, and you're going to bust hell wide open. That's what you're getting. What kind of way of living is that? That's crazy. That's cockamamie. That's malarkey. Like President Biden says, that's malarkey. It really is. But it's either heaven or you're going to bust hell wide open. That's it. That's all you need to be concerned about. Well, no, it's not all I need to be concerned about. I have a family here on this earth. I have a life to live here on this earth. And I'm going to live it to its fullest. Nobody's going to tell me that, I got to focus my whole life on whether I'm going to get to heaven or not. What is that? That's not living life. That's living in fear and in worry and in doubt. Because then you know what you run around doing? You keep asking yourself, well, am I good enough to make the cut? Are you kidding me? We don't have to worry about being good enough to make the cut. We stand with the pillars of the Torah and the pillars of the covenants, even more important. The pillars of the covenant. You see, we're going to do just like Yaakov. We're going to take our last breath and we're going to be gathered to our people. Baruch Hashem. That's what we're going to do. We're going to be gathered to our people. That's beautiful. And we look forward to when we'll be gathered to our people in our land once again. That's been promised to us. You see? It's our possession forever. It's a forever possession that we have. You all are real estate owners. Whether you want to be a real estate owner or not, you are. According to the covenants. If you want to embrace the covenants, then you're real estate owners. This is what it is. It's beautiful. It is indeed wonderful. So consider these things going forward. As you examine the life of Jacob, look at his life. Examine it. And see how you can learn. Don't look at Jacob's life and see how he lost. Look at how Jacob learned and how you can learn from Jacob's life and apply from our patriarch. And look at his failings, where he fell short, so it can help you not fall short, or not fall short for a very long time, where you can get on and carry on. Where you have those periods where, yeah, you're a little weak here and there, and you address them, and then you keep being great. And then you keep being great. I'm going to close with this. You know, Muhammad Ali, in my opinion, was the greatest boxer that ever walked the face of this earth. Great boxer. He had great strategy in his boxing technique. And most consider him the greatest of all time, the GOAT when it comes to boxing. But here's the question. Did Muhammad Ali ever lose a fight? Think about that for a minute. Did he ever lose a fight, Mishpahah? But yet he's still considered the greatest of all time. Did he ever lose a fight? Of course he did. But he's still considered the greatest of all time. The greatest. Why? Because they don't sit there and count your losses. They look at your work over a period of time. Oh, one loss, I'm going to throw in the bag. No, don't do that. Be the greatest at what you do, or what you want to do. You are the greatest at it. You just have to, you have to come in to your greatness. Because greatness has always been there for Yisrael, for the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You just have to come into it. Embrace it. Wear the clothes. Wear the clothes of greatness. Because they're ready fit. Imagine them being hung on a hanger. This is right there for you to pull out of your closet, pull out of your wardrobe, and just put them on. And maybe you need to visualize that in the morning. It's like you put on your greatness clothes. And when you're putting on your clothes in the morning, pull out that extra wardrobe of greatness and put it on over you. Because you are greatness. And to die for that lecture, I call you, because, greatness, we are great. And nothing's going to change that. Unless we take it away from ourselves. That's the only way. Nobody can take your greatness from you. We can take it away from ourselves. If you don't want to be greatness, then don't receive greatness. That's the only way it's going to leave us. So let's keep it moving forward, Mishpahah. Look back to learn, but then keep it moving forward. Look back to learn from our page. Why do you think the Torah was left for us, and all these examples were left in the Torah and our parshas? For what? For us just to read them like a storybook? No, for us to examine them, for us to learn from them, and then what are we doing? We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep carrying that mantra of the way of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob until we too take our last breath. But we're going to leave a legacy behind us that's going to grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. That's what was said about you and I, the descendants of Yisrael. So Torah don't lie. So let's start multiplying. We're a multitude in the midst. We're going to grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. That's why you are where you are now. It's to grow to a multitude. So let's do that. Let's do that, Mishpahah. Because that's who we are. That's our character. And it's a beautiful character. I tell you, I'm home. I can, all my periods on this earth, I can finally say that I'm home. I've been home for 10 plus years now, and I'm totally happy being at home. And I'm comfortable within myself. Before Torah, I couldn't say that. I was very uncomfortable within myself. I didn't even know who I was. I was trying to figure out who I was. I was testing all the waters. My actions was the test. If I didn't like it, I would move on. And I did a lot of moving on. But now I'm home. Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks always. I'm going to turn it back over to our Kohen. We'll wrap it up. My desire is that you have a great 6 days of labor ahead as we keep moving forward. Love your wives. Love your children. Embrace them. Hold them close to you. Teach them. Teach them our way of life. And they won't depart. Be peaceful and kind and compassionate to your neighbors, friends, and loved ones. This is our way. Mishpachah. This is our way. Okay, over to you, our Kohen. Shabbat shalom and shalom shalom to you all. Let me send this lecture to
Yet to go for that Rabbi Kefa. And so I would say practice what you have learned and put it to effect. Put it to action. And then you will see the results as you diligently do the things. Now, of course, there are different times that different things can happen. But I think find the best time that you can for yourself, whether that means in the morning, whether that means in the afternoon, or whether that means in the evening. Whatever time is available to you, again, time is not really an issue here as such, but it's more to do with your commitment. Your commitment is what counts, and if you're committed to bettering your life, then you will find the time as well. So put these things to effect. I would encourage you to go back and listen to last 3 months of lectures, re-listen to them, because you may learn new things from them, and you'll be able to put it into practice effectively, and then you'll be able to reap the results. 1,000 years of religion is not going to help you, but the right instructions for 1 week will change your life. So I leave you with that for the 2021. Until next week, Baruch Hashem Yahweh, have a great week ahead. Shabbat shalom, shalom, shalom to you. If you wish to support our work, you can go to www.forever-Israel.com or www.Abrahamic-Faith.info, and there is a donate now icon for PayPal, and you can send in a donation of your choice from that particular address. You can also use Cash App, and you can use PayPal directly, and you can send a donation to Shimon63, SHIMOUN63 @yahoo.com, or you can send a donation to $SIMALT with the Cash App. We greatly appreciate your support in this endeavor for us to spread the truth and the correct way for people to better their lives and to serve the God of Israel in their lives. Thank you, and may you be blessed forever. Amen. Amen.